Hello, I'm Bernie Leving, Congregational Care Pastor here at Palma, Ceia United Methodist. Welcome to this week's PrayerCast. Last Thursday night, I had the privilege of participating in a commemoration of an event that happened 74 years ago, on February the 3rd, 1943. I was invited as a United Methodist pastor, along with a Jewish rabbi, a Catholic priest, and a Dutch Reformed pastor to American Legion Post 5 to commemorate the cold North Atlantic night in which a German U-boat torpedoed the United States Army transport Dorchester, carrying over 900 soldiers, sailors, Coast Guardsmen, merchant marines, and civilians to their respective responsibilities in the war against Germany. The Dorchester was a coastal steamer which had been converted into a troop-carrying vessel, making several round trips between New York and overseas before the ill-fated voyage, which began on January the 23rd from Staten Island, New York. After landing in St. John's, Newfoundland, the ship was en route to Greenland, carrying the service members and equipment necessary for a secret mission. An interesting fact for me is that among the 3 escort vessels for the convoy was the Coast Guard cutter Tampa. During the time of the voyage, the chaplains had made friends with many of those aboard. They organized games, they organized fun times for everyone. They also began to respond to the requests for time alone with individuals who just needed to talk, some of them because of their fears. The services they held were well attended. Shortly after midnight on February the 3rd, the Dorchester was hit by a torpedo from a U-boat. She was immediately disabled and began to sink. In the midst of the turmoil, the fear, the unknown, the 4 chaplains were moving about helping launch the lifeboats, distributing life jackets, and speaking words of comfort to the fearful. It was soon apparent that there were not enough life jackets to go around. Not everyone would have one. Then, one by one, without consultation with each other, the 4 chaplains took off their life jackets, which they had brought up from their stateroom, and gave them to 4 individuals without one. Each recipient objected to the chaplain giving up his jacket. One yelled again and again, "You can't do this, you can't do this." The chaplain responded, "I can't not do it." Of the 904 persons aboard, 675 died, including the 4 chaplains. The last image survivors later recalled was of the chaplains standing together in a circle, arms linked, heads raised to the sky, and singing, "Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm doth bind the restless wave," as the Dorchester slipped beneath the freezing water. They were Alexander Goode, a Reformed Jewish rabbi; John P. Washington, a Roman Catholic priest; Clark V. Poling, a Dutch Reformed pastor; and George L. Fox, a Methodist pastor. Chaplain Fox was the oldest among them, and he had served in the First World War, where he received 2 Purple Hearts for wounds suffered, the Distinguished Service Medal and Silver Star for his heroism, and the French Croix de Guerre. The 4 had become friends in the chaplain basic course at Harvard Divinity School, and they were Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, different and yet the same, separate and yet forever indivisible. Their families received their posthumous Purple Hearts and Distinguished Service Crosses. Later, one of the survivors was being interviewed about what he saw and experienced that night. The interrogator was looking for intelligence information about maybe the submarine or the torpedo, but then what he heard was this: "What I saw, sir, was the finest, the greatest thing I have ever seen or ever hoped to see this side of heaven." There are stained glass windows in many places, including the Pentagon, the National Cathedral, the Army Chaplain School at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and the post chapels at West Point, and the Memorial Chapel at the Army War College at Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania, honoring the Four Chaplains, the Dorchester Chaplains, the Immortal Chaplains, as they have been called. In 1948, the Postal Service issued a 3-cent stamp honoring the chaplains and their interfaith service in action. In 1961, Congress created a Congressional Medal of Valor and a Four Chaplains Medal, which were given to each family. In 1993, I was privileged to be the keynote speaker at the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the sailing of the Dorchester at the dock on Staten Island, from which it had sailed. There were 4 or 5 survivors of that night present at the service. I was deeply moved by their stories of the Four Chaplains serving God and our country on the Dorchester. So why is this the subject of a PrayerCast? Because it is a story often forgotten or never known about. It is the story of 4 very different men, all called to serve God as pastors, priests, and rabbi, who willingly gave their lives that 4 men could live. They exemplified the motto of the Army chaplaincy, Pro Deo e Patri, for God and country. Carl Sandburg once said, "Valor is a gift. Those having it never know for sure whether they have it until the test comes." That night, chaplains Goode, Poling, Washington, and Fox passed life's ultimate test. In doing so, they became an enduring example of extraordinary faith, courage, and selflessness. Please pray with me. God, thank you for the lives of these 4 chaplains we remember today. May we follow their example in our day-to-day lives as we meet the challenges and opportunities of serving you, our country, and our neighbors. Amen. God bless the rest of your week. Be sure and be in worship this Sunday.